Usually, when we sit down to record one of these deep dives, there's a certain energy in the room. It's light, it's curious. We're usually here to build something up.
Right. We take a stack of articles on, renewable energy or the history of coffee, and we construct something for the listener.
Exactly. We build this tower of knowledge. It feels additive, like we're giving you new tools to put in your mental toolbox.
Sure.
But today feels very different. I've been reading through the source material you brought in, this lens of conditioning, and I have to be honest, the vibe isn't learning.
Oh.
It feels like we're here to break something.
That is a very, very astute way to put it, and you're absolutely right.
Okay.
Most education, most of these discussions are about, let's call it furniture arrangement. We help people decorate their mental house with some new facts, a new perspective.
I like that analogy. A new lamp here, a new bookshelf there.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Today, we're not decorating. We are ripping up the floorboards to inspect the foundation, and I should warn you, and everyone listening, what we find down there is not going to be comfortable.
Not comfortable is, yeah, that's putting it lightly.
Yeah.
Because reading this dossier, and it really does read more like a dossier than an article.
It does.
It feels like we're taking a sledgehammer to the very idea of me, to my sense of self, to your sense of self if you're listening.
Go on.
It suggests that the things I consider most personal, my morals, my political opinions, my hatred of certain foods, my love of others, that they aren't actually mine.
And what are they then?
Claims they're software, code, written by other people, installed when I was too young to even read the terms and conditions, let alone click, I agree.
Precisely. That is the core premise we're exploring. The human mind is not a vessel of truth. It's not a camera that takes these unbiased photos of reality.
It's not.
No. It is a biological machine, and it's designed for one thing and one thing only: survival. And the software running that machine, the code that tells you who is a friend, who is an enemy, what is virtuous, what is sinful, that was programmed by your environment, by your parents, your teachers, your society.
So if we do our job right today, we're not going to leave people with fun trivia for a dinner party.
No, not at all. We are going to leave them with a crisis, a genuine crisis of self. We're going to leave them asking, is anything I believe actually true? Or was I just trained to believe it?
It's the ultimate conspiracy theory, isn't it?
In a way.
But it's not about, aliens or the Illuminati or some shadowy cabal in a smoke-filled room.
The conspiracy is much closer to home.
It's about biology. It's about the gray matter between your own ears.
Yes.
So if you're listening to this, I think you really need to prepare yourself. We aren't just unpacking a topic. We are attempting a deprogramming session.
That's the goal.
And to do that, we have to start with the biggest, coldest bucket of ice water the source material offers. Section 1, the cosmic indifference.
Yes. We have to zoom out, way, way out. We need to leave the comfort of human society, our laws, our coffee shops, our social media feeds, and look at the universe as a physical system.
The hard reality.
And the hard reality.
But source starts with this. Well, it's a brutal distinction between nature and human constructs.
Yeah.
And it makes this point that I think most of us, deep down, we try to ignore it because it's genuinely terrifying.
Which is?
Nature does not speak the language of morality. It doesn't know right. It doesn't know wrong. It only speaks the language of cause and effect.
Let's ground that, because it sounds very abstract. We love to say things like, oh, nature is so cruel, or nature is beautiful and kind.
We project onto it.
We're painting faces on rocks.
Yeah.
The source uses the example of a lion taking down a deer, and you have to really visualize it. Not the Disney version.
No, the full David Attenborough can't watch it while eating version.
Exactly. It is violent, there is blood, there's terror, the deer is suffering immensely. It's an awful thing to witness.
Right. And if I saw that happening in my backyard, I'd be horrified. My immediate gut reaction is moral revulsion to that suffering.
Of course. You feel that. But here is the question the source demands you ask yourself. Is the lion doing something wrong?
And my gut, my logical brain says,
no.
No. I mean, I don't want to watch it, but I don't think we should arrest the lion.
We shouldn't put the lion on trial for murder.
No. It's not a murderer.
But why not? It committed a premeditated act of violence that resulted in a death. That's the definition of murder.
Because it's a lion. It's hungry. Its biology says eat to survive, so it eats. It doesn't really have a choice in the matter.
Exactly. You've hit the nail on the head. In the realm of physics and biology, there is only cause and effect. Hunger is the cause. Killing the deer is the effect.
And the universe just watches. It doesn't judge.
The universe is a silent observer. The grass doesn't mourn the deer. The wind doesn't cry out injustice. The tectonic plates couldn't care less.
And the source pushes this even further. It's not just animals. It uses the virus analogy. A virus could wipe out 1 million people. It causes an unbelievable amount of suffering. It rips families apart.
But is the virus evil?
No. It's just RNA. It's a biological machine doing exactly what evolution programmed it to do. Replicate.
It doesn't hate us. It doesn't have intent. It just is.
Same with an earthquake, right? When the ground shakes and a city collapses, is the planet being sinful? Did the Earth decide to punish those people for some transgression?
Of course not. We know that's absurd. It's just physics. Pressure building up and then being released.
So here's the hard truth the source wants us to swallow. The universe, the actual physical reality we all live in, is entirely amoral. It's void of morality.
Right and wrong do not exist on the periodic table of elements.
They're not in the laws of thermodynamics. They aren't fundamental forces like gravity.
Which mean?
Which implies they are inventions. They are tools that we, humanity, we built them.
Yes. They are survival heuristics. The source calls them concepts created by humans to organize society. And it makes perfect sense if you think about it.
Okay, walk me through that.
Think about early humans. We are, as a species, pretty pathetic physically. We're weak, hairless apes. We have no claws, no fangs to speak of, no armor plating.
If we're living alone on the savannah, we're dead.
Instantly. We need the tribe to survive. But tribes are messy.
Yeah,
Human beings are messy.
sure.
If I can just decide to steal your food and you can decide to kill me for it, and then my brother gets revenge on you, the whole tribe collapses. It's not a viable long-term strategy.
And then the lions come and eat all of us.
Exactly. So we needed a software patch. We couldn't just say, hey guys, it's strategically inefficient to stab each other over dinner.
That's not strong enough. It doesn't have enough weight.
Not at all. So we invented something much more powerful. We said, it is wrong to stab each other. The gods forbid it. The universe itself hates it.
We elevated practical social rules into these grand cosmic truths to make sure everyone would follow them.
Correct. We internalized these survival strategies and we gave them a holy name. Morality.
But the dark implication here, the reason this feels like a demolition job, is that if morality is just a tool invented by hairless apes to survive, then right is not a universal constant, and wrong is not an eternal fact. They're hallucinations. They are shared delusions that exist only in the damp, dark space between our ears.
And if humans went extinct tomorrow,
Goodness would vanish from the universe in an instant. Gravity would still be here, but goodness would be gone.
that's it.
That makes me feel incredibly small. And kind of lonely, actually. It's like realizing you're in a pitch-black room and the only light is coming from this tiny flashlight you're holding, but you've been pretending your whole life that the entire room is brilliantly lit by the sun.
That is the cosmic indifference. It's the blank canvas upon which we paint our values. But we have to go deeper, because if right and wrong aren't real in a physical sense, what is real? And this is where the source distinguishes between two types of truth. And it claims that confusing these two is the root cause of almost all human conflict.
Right. This is section 2, the two realities we have, objective truth and subjective truth. Now, I feel like most people think they know the difference. You know, we learn fact versus opinion in elementary school.
We do, and yet the source argues we are actually terrible at telling them apart in the real world.
Abysmal at it, it says.
And the consequences are, well, they're bloody, so let's define them very strictly, as the source does. Objective truths are facts that exist independent of human minds.
They don't care if you believe in them.
They don't care about your culture, your feelings, your holy book, nothing. They just are.
The source lists things like fire burns skin. It doesn't matter if you are a king or a priest or a peasant. If you put your hand in the fire, the proteins in your skin will denature.
The fire doesn't care if you pray to a fire god or if you're a devout atheist. It just burns.
Gravity pulls objects toward the center of mass. You can't debate gravity. You can't start a protest movement against the boiling point of water.
These are the constraints of the simulation, so to speak. They are the hardware of reality.
But then we have the other bucket, the subjective truths. And this is where we live, what, 99% of our lives? This is the software.
Subjective truths are entirely dependent on an observer. They require a human mind to even exist. Without a mind, they are meaningless.
The source gives some great examples. Killing animals is wrong. To a committed vegan, that feels like an objective fact. It feels like gravity.
But to a hunter, or to a lion for that matter, it's complete nonsense. It's not a feature of their reality.
Or how about Democracy is the best system of government.
Picasso was a genius.
Family is the most important thing.
God exists, God does not exist. None of these can be proven in the same way you can prove gravity. You can't put justice under a microscope. You can't weigh sin on a scale.
They're interpretations. They're the stories we tell ourselves about the objective facts.
Exactly. And the source says the conflict generator, the engine that powers wars, family arguments, endless Twitter fights, is one specific catastrophic error.
Mistaking a subjective truth for an objective truth.
Yes, treating your story as if it's the hardware.
Immanuel Kant warned about this, right? The source brings him up. He said, we never see the ding in sich, the thing in itself.
We only ever see the phenomena, the thing as it appears to our brain, through our senses, through our conditioning. We are trapped in our own user interface.
I really love that user interface analogy you used when we were prepping. It made this whole thing just click for me.
It's a useful way to think about it.
It's like, when I look at my computer desktop, I see a little icon that looks like a trash can. I drag a file to it and the file gets deleted.
Right.
But in reality, inside the computer circuitry, there is no physical trash can. There's just magnetic charges flipping, zeros and ones shifting on a silicon drive.
The trash can is a convenient lie. It's a symbol that helps your human brain interact with an incredibly complex machine you don't understand.
So morality is the trash can icon. Justice is a folder icon. Evil is a big red warning label.
Yes. They make the complex, chaotic reality of human social interaction navigable. But if you start thinking the trash can is a literal, physical object, if you mistake the icon for the underlying code, you're going to get into deep trouble.
When you treat eating meat as wrong, as if it were as true as fire burns skin, you become a fanatic.
You become incapable of understanding why the other person doesn't see it. You don't think they have a different opinion. You think they are denying reality itself.
You think they're broken or evil.
But they aren't denying reality. They just have a different user interface installed on their biological computer.
So if my values are just icons on my desktop, who put them there? Because I feel like I put them there. I feel like I sat down, I looked at the world, I weighed the evidence, and I decided I value kindness. I feel like I have agency here.
And that is the greatest illusion of all. That very feeling of agency is part of the programming. The source material is very clear on this point. The brain is not a truth machine. It is a learning machine. Which brings us to section 3, the programming of the machine.
This is where we get into the nuts and bolts.
We have to get technical here because the source brings in the heavy hitters of behavioral psychology. We're talking B.F. Skinner and Ivan Pavlov.
B.F. Skinner, the man who famously put rats in boxes and taught pigeons to play ping pong.
And the man who argued that free will is, for all intents and purposes, a myth. Skinner's model is called operant conditioning, and it's terrifyingly simple, and it runs your entire life.
Okay, so the premise is behavior is controlled by consequences.
That's the whole game. Let's take the classic Skinner box scenario. You put a rat in a box, there's a lever. If the rat happens to press the lever and a pellet of food comes out,
It presses the lever again and again and again.
that is positive reinforcement. Now, same box, different program. The rat presses the lever and gets a mild electric shock.
It stops pressing the lever pretty fast.
That is punishment. Simple.
Okay, but I'm not a rat. I'm a complex human being with dreams and anxieties and a library card.
You are a rat with a much larger vocabulary and more complex desires. The mechanism is identical.
I don't know if I like that.
Think about how you were raised. You're a toddler. You share your toy with your little sister. Your mom smiles, she claps, she says, "Good boy." She gives you a cookie.
Dopamine hit.
Yeah.
My brain lights up.
Your brain logs a file. It doesn't have words yet, but the file basically says sharing, survival, pleasure, love, safety.
And if I hit my sister with the toy instead?
Mom scolds you. She frowns. Affection is withdrawn. Maybe she puts you in a timeout. Cortisol, the stress hormone, spikes. You feel the pain of social isolation.
So my brain logs another file. Violence, social isolation, pain, danger.
Exactly. So fast forward 20 years. You're an adult. You donate to a charity and you say, "I believe sharing is good. It's the ethical thing to do."
You're saying I'm not stating a philosophical truth I arrived at through careful reasoning? I'm just reading out the log file for my rewards and punishments when I was 3?
You are retroactively applying a sophisticated moral label to a successful reinforcement strategy that kept you safe and loved as a child.
That's a very clinical way to put it.
But here is where Skinner gets really, really interesting and where the conspiracy aspect becomes undeniable. It's not just simple rewards. It's the variable ratio schedule of reinforcement.
Okay, that's a mouthful. Is this the gambling mechanic?
This is the engine of all modern addiction. Yes, back to the rat. If the rat presses the lever and gets a food pellet every single time, it learns quickly, but it also gets bored. It presses it when it's hungry, then it stops.
It's predictable.
But what if the lever only works sometimes and the rat doesn't know when? Maybe the third press, maybe the 20th, maybe the 101st.
The rat goes insane. It just sits there and presses the lever obsessively forever.
That is how a slot machine works. That is how social media works. That is how the news cycle works. That is how your phone controls you.
Explain that.
You scroll through your feed. That's pressing the lever. Most of it is boring, junk, nothing. But sometimes you see a post that makes you angry, or a picture that makes you laugh, or a comment that validates your opinion.
Dopamine hit. Reward.
So you keep scrolling and scrolling. You are being conditioned by a variable reward schedule designed by Silicon Valley engineers to stay engaged with the tribe.
That is horrifying. So my addiction to my phone, or my compulsion to check the news headlines, that's not me being informed or connected. That's me being a pigeon in a box, picking at a plastic button because I don't know when the next seed is coming.
It is your ancient biology being hacked by modern technology. And then you have the other pillar, Pavlov. Classical conditioning.
The bells and the salivating dogs.
Yes. And this is even deeper, even more insidious, because it bypasses the thinking brain entirely. It's about pure, raw association.
It explains why we have those gut reactions that make no logical sense.
Absolutely. Let's take prejudice, for example. It's a perfect case study. Suppose you are a small child. You are walking down the street holding your mother's hand. You see a person of a certain group, let's say someone wearing a specific style of hat.
Okay.
You don't think anything of it, but your mother, unconsciously, tightens her grip on your hand. Her breathing gets a little faster. She subtly pulls you closer.
I pick up on that immediately. Mirror neurons, right?
Yeah.
Her fear becomes my fear.
Instantly. Your amygdala, the brain's ancient threat detector, records a file. It doesn't use words. It just links two things together. That hat is danger. You didn't think it. You felt it. You associated the neutral visual input with a powerful survival threat.
So 20 years later, I'm an adult. I see someone wearing that same style of hat. I feel a sudden, inexplicable spike of anxiety. Maybe I cross the street to avoid them.
Yes. And then what does your brain do?
My lawyer, my conscious mind steps in to explain my behavior to myself.
Right.
I say, well, statistically, that group is more prone to X, Y, and Z. Or I read an article once that said.
Exactly. You think you are calmly analyzing objective data, but you are just rationalizing a 20-year-old emotional scar on your nervous system.
So logic is just the press secretary for the emotions. It comes out to the podium after the decision has already been made in the back room, just to explain to the media why it was the right and logical choice all along.
That is one of the most profound and humbling truths of modern neuroscience.
Wow. Okay, so we're walking around with all this code, all these triggers that we didn't choose. But it's not just our parents programming us in childhood, right? The source moves on to the society control system. This is operant conditioning on a massive societal scale.
Oh, yes. The parents install the base operating system. Let's call it Human OS 1.0. But then society comes in and installs all the apps and the constant nagging updates.
And the most powerful app is conformity.
Without a doubt.
We have to talk about Albert Bandura here. The source mentions his famous Bobo doll experiment, but it says the real key takeaway is something called vicarious reinforcement.
This is a vital piece of the puzzle. Bandura proved that we don't even need to be rewarded or punished ourselves to be conditioned. We just need to watch someone else get rewarded or punished.
We're observational learners. We're copycats.
The ultimate copycats. So let's say you're in high school. You see the loud, confident, maybe even slightly bullying kid getting all the attention, all the high fives, all the dates.
My brain is taking notes. It learns. Dominance and arrogance equals status.
Even if you are naturally a quiet, introverted person, your brain marks that behavior as a successful social strategy. You might try to emulate it, even if it feels unnatural.
And conversely, if you see the kid who always asks the dumb questions in class getting mocked by the teacher and laughed at by the other students.
You learn a powerful lesson. Curiosity equals danger. Standing out from the herd equals pain. So you learn to shut up. You learn to keep your head down.
And this explains the spiral of silence we see all over social media and in politics today.
It absolutely does. We are constantly subconsciously scanning the room. We're asking, what is the safe opinion to have right now? What happens to the people who disagree with the consensus?
And if we see someone get canceled or mocked or fired or just ostracized for holding a certain opinion, We self-censor.
And it's worse than that. We don't just shut up. The source is clear on this. Over time, we actually start to change our private beliefs to match the herd's.
We have to, don't we? Because we are social primates.
For 200,000 years on the plains of Africa, exile meant death. It's that simple. If you were kicked out of the tribe, you didn't just get lonely. You got eaten by a saber-toothed tiger.
So my brain is hardwired to prioritize belonging over truth every single time.
Every time. The threat of social exclusion feels to our ancient brain like the threat of death itself.
There's a line in the source that really just, it hit me like a ton of bricks. It said, moral certainty is usually a signal of safety seeking, not intelligence.
It's a harsh truth, but it holds up. The people who are the loudest, the most dogmatic about the rules, who scream the most about what is right and wrong, who demand everyone toe the party line.
They're not the wisest.
They're often the ones who are the most terrified of being cast out. Their loudness is a signal to the tribe. Look at me. I am safe. I am following the code perfectly. Please don't hurt me. It isn't wisdom. It is fear wearing a costume of righteousness.
Okay, so we have the programming from childhood. We have the reinforcement from society. But that still doesn't fully explain why it feels so personal. Why, if you challenge my politics or my religion, it feels like you just punched me in the throat. Why do I get physically hot? Why does my heart race?
And that brings us to Section 5, identity as a survival mechanism. This is where modern neuroscience comes in to explain our current political nightmare.
The source talks about the brain not being able to distinguish between the physical you and the psychological you.
Correct. Think about it this way. If I throw a rock at your head, what happens in your brain?
My amygdala, the threat center, activates. Threat, fight or flight. Adrenaline spikes. Blood rushes to my muscles. My breathing changes.
A classic ancient survival response. But here is the critical glitch in the human design. The brain uses the exact same pathway for psychological threats.
So hearing the words, your political party is wrong and foolish, feels the same to my brain as, here comes a rock.
If you have strongly identified with a label, smart progressive, patriotic conservative, vegan, Christian, whatever it is, those labels become part of your brain's map of self. They are treated like a virtual limb. They are load-bearing walls in the architecture of your psyche.
So if you attack the belief, you're not just attacking an idea, you are attacking me.
It is perceived as an amputation attempt. You aren't just disagreeing with me, you are trying to saw off my arm.
And my brain responds accordingly. It perceives a counter-argument not as a chance to learn, but as a literal attempt to kill a part of me.
That is why you get hot. That is why your heart races. That is why you literally can't listen to what the other person is saying. Your prefrontal cortex, the logical, reasoning part of your brain, shuts down to conserve energy for the impending fight.
This has to be the backfire effect, right? The phenomenon where showing someone facts that contradict their belief actually makes them believe it more strongly.
It's the brain's immune system kicking into overdrive. Alien fact detected. This threatens the integrity of the self. Deploy antibodies. Distort. Deny. Attack the source.
And this is where confirmation bias comes in. We usually think of it as just, being stubborn or only listening to things we agree with.
But the source frames it in a much more active, more sinister way. It calls it the brain's censorship bureau.
It's not passive.
Yeah.
It's active editing of reality.
Your brain is constantly scanning the horizon for information that supports your identity and your tribe's beliefs. Let it in, amplify it, share it on social media.
And information that threatens your identity.
Block it, distort its meaning, question the source's motives, delete it from memory.
So we literally do not see the world as it is. We see a curated newsfeed that our brain has prepared for us. We see the version of reality where we are the hero and our tribe is right, or at the very least where we feel safe.
And that scary thought you highlighted from the outline. Two people can watch the exact same event, say a video of a police interaction or a political protest, and see two completely different realities.
And neither one of them is lying.
No, they are biologically filtering the photons hitting their retinas differently. They are seeing the movie that their lifetime of conditioning has projected onto the screen of reality for them.
This sets us up perfectly for the next section, the case files. The source breaks down some of the biggest modern conflicts, not to figure out who is right, but to look at the conflicting software.
Yes.
And I want to be really clear to everyone listening. We are not taking sides here. We are doing the absolute opposite of that. We are stepping out of the arena entirely to look at the code that's running on the scoreboard.
We are the alien anthropologists looking down at the anthill and just trying to understand the patterns.
Okay, Let's start with case file 1, veganism versus non-veganism.
Right.
This is a classic internet bloodbath.
It is a perfect example. So if you look at the code for the committed vegan, what is the core directive that's been installed?
Compassion, reducing suffering.
Right. And they have usually been exposed to specific stimuli that reinforce this code. They've seen footage from inside slaughterhouses. They've watched documentaries like Dominion. They've read about the climate impact of animal agriculture.
So their brain has formed a powerful Pavlovian link between meat and suffering, violence and guilt.
Yes. Their central subjective truth is causing unnecessary suffering is the greatest wrong. So when they look at a steak on a plate, they don't see food, they see a crime scene.
Okay, now let's look at the non-vegan. Maybe they were raised on a farm where animals were part of the cycle of life. Maybe they're a fitness enthusiast who has associated meat with strength and health.
Or maybe they just focus on the objective truth of evolution. Humans are omnivores. We have canine teeth. We have the enzymes to digest protein. For hundreds of thousands of years, this is how we survived.
So the non-vegan's code says, meat is food, it is natural. The vegan's code says, meat is murder, it is unethical.
And they scream at each other across the internet, completely baffled as to how the other side can be so blind.
But the really interesting part mentioned in the source is the concept of cognitive dissonance, the idea of carnism. It's like, I love my dog is my family. If you hurt my dog, I will hunt you down. But I'll eat bacon for breakfast. And pigs are, by many measures, more intelligent and emotionally complex than dogs. How does my brain survive that massive contradiction?
It compartmentalizes. You create a mental wall. You create categories. Pets go in this box. Livestock goes in that box. It's a software patch to prevent your brain from crashing with a logic error.
And the vegan comes along and breaks that wall down. They point at the pig on my plate and say, that is a dog.
Which is why the meat eater often gets so disproportionately angry and defensive. The vegan isn't just offering a different opinion. They are forcing them to confront their own cognitive dissonance. They are ripping the software patch off and exposing the contradiction underneath.
But the vegan has filters too, right? The source points out they might filter out the reality of tractor death, the fact that harvesting crops kills billions of rodents, insects, and birds.
Of course. Everyone filters. The vegan is filtering reality through the lens of intentional suffering. The meat eater is filtering through the lens of natural order. Neither is viewing the raw, unfiltered reality. They are viewing a curated edit designed to keep their identity and their conscience intact.
Let's move to case file 2, which is even more radioactive. Feminism versus anti-feminism, or what sometimes called the manosphere.
Perfect for this kind of analysis. Let's look at the data inputs. A person whose software is feminist is conditioned by history. They learn about the objective truth that for 99% of recorded history, women were legally property.
Couldn't vote, couldn't own land, couldn't control their own bodies.
Exactly. They look at current power structures and see the lingering effects of that history, like the glass ceiling or the pay gap.
So their software runs on the core belief. Society is a patriarchal structure designed to oppress women.
Now, let's look at the manosphere, or anti-feminist input stream. They're looking at a completely different set of data. They're looking at suicide rates. Nearly 75% are men.
Workplace deaths. Over 90% are men.
Homelessness. The majority are men. The military draft-only men are legally required to register to be forced to die for the state.
So their software runs on the core belief. Society is a system that treats men as disposable.
Now, put those two people in a room together. The feminist says, you need to check your privilege. The man says, what privilege? I'm dying in a coal mine and you're telling me I'm the oppressor.
And they are both pointing to a huge stack of undeniable facts to support their case.
But they're different stacks, and because they identify with their narrative of suffering, acknowledging the other side's pain feels like a betrayal of their own tribe. It feels like it invalidates their own struggle.
If the feminist admits that men suffer deeply under the current system, does that weaken the argument against patriarchy? If the man admits that women were historically oppressed, does that invalidate his own feelings of being disposable?
To the threatened amygdala, it feels like a zero-sum game of victimhood.
Which is a complete lie, of course. Suffering isn't a competition.
But it's a lie that feels intensely real to the programmed brain. They're both looking at a complex shape. The source uses the analogy of a cylinder. One is looking at it from the top and screaming, it's a circle. The other is looking from the side and screaming, it's a rectangle. And they are both willing to die on that hill, absolutely convinced the other person is blind or malicious.
Okay, case file 3. Religion versus atheism. The oldest battle in the book.
Or, as the source frames it, the battle of why versus how.
Right. Religious conditioning focuses on meaning, on community, on managing the terror of death. If I believe I get to see my grandma again in heaven, if I believe my suffering on earth has a divine purpose,
It's an incredibly powerful psychological survival tool. And for billions of people, it works. Religious communities often report higher levels of happiness and social cohesion. It solves the problem of how do I live a meaningful life without going crazy from the existential dread?
then you have atheist conditioning. It focuses on evidence, on empiricism. Show me the data. Where is the peer-reviewed study? What can be proven?
It's an epistemic tool. It's a system for navigating the physical world more accurately. It solves the problem of how does reality actually work?
And the conflict, the source says, happens when we try to use one system to answer the other's questions.
Yeah.
This is the whole God of the gaps argument.
Exactly. When you try to use the Bible to explain geology and biology, you get creationism, which is just bad science. But when you try to use physics to explain meaning and morality, you can end up with nihilism, which can lead to psychological despair.
So the glitch isn't necessarily in the systems themselves, it's in the misapplication of the tool.
And in the human arrogance of believing that your tool is the only one needed in the entire toolbox.
This brings us to Section 7, where the source gets, if it's possible, even darker. The illusion of morality and free will. We have established that morality is a tool, but let's look at just how fluid and slippery it is. Contextual morality.
The murder example from the text is the cleanest, most brutal way to see this. The objective act is the same in every case. A human being ends the life of another human being.
Okay, so, in peacetime on a city street,
We label that act wrong. We call it murder. You go to prison for life. You are considered a monster, the worst kind of person.
now same act, but the person is wearing a different uniform in a different country during a declared war.
We label that act heroic. We give you a medal for it. You get a parade when you come home. We might even build a statue of you in the town square.
Okay, same act, ending a life, but the victim isn't human. It's a deer.
We call it food. Or sport. You take a proud picture smiling next to the corpse and post it on Instagram.
Killing a rat in your kitchen.
We call that hygiene or pest control.
It's the exact same physical action, the ending of a conscious life.
Yeah.
But the moral label we apply to it shifts completely based on what?
Utility, context, power, fear, survival. As Nietzsche famously said, morality is not truth, it is a strategy. It bends to whatever serves the tribe. If killing your neighbor helps the tribe survive, it becomes justice. If it hurts the tribe, it becomes sin.
So that little voice in my head, my conscience, what Freud called the superego,
Yeah.
that's not God speaking to me. It's not some cosmic antenna picking up on universal moral laws.
Freud argued it's simply the internalized voice of society. It is just your parents, your teachers, your culture, and your frantic, terrified ancestors whispering in your ear from beyond the grave. It's a recording playing on a loop in your head.
And now, the part that I think will be hardest for people to accept, the darkest part of the dive, the death of free will.
This is where people usually check out emotionally. They can handle morality being relative. They can even handle being programmed. But they cannot handle the idea that they aren't the ones in control of the machine.
The argument in the source is that most of our decisions are made subconsciously, seconds before we're even aware of them. You think you're choosing, but you're just becoming aware of the choice your programming already made for you.
The luck argument from thinkers like Sam Harris, which the source touches on, really drives this home. Pick a bad person. A serial killer, for instance.
Okay.
Now let's look at the factors that made them who they are. Look at their brain. Maybe they have a tumor pressing on their prefrontal cortex, inhibiting empathy. Did they choose to have that tumor?
No, of course not.
Look at their genes. Maybe they were born with a genetic predisposition for aggression and low impulse control. Did they choose their genes?
No.
Look at their childhood. Were they brutally abused? Did they suffer from lead poisoning from the water? Did they grow up in a violent, traumatic war zone?
These are all common factors, yes.
So if you could take a healthy, normal baby and you could give them that killer's exact genes, that killer's exact brain damage, and that killer's exact abusive childhood, does that baby grow up to be anything other than the killer?
The source implies. No, they have to. It's cause and effect.
So where in that chain of cause and effect did free will enter the picture? You are the sum of your biology and your conditioning. You are a biological robot responding to inputs, running its code.
It's like a card trick. The magician forces a card on you. You feel completely free. You feel like you picked the ace of spades from the deck all on your own. But the magician manipulated the situation, so you had no other possible choice.
Conditioning is the magician. You choose from the very limited menu of options that your conditioning allows you to see. If you were raised in a family that taught you money is the root of all evil, you will subconsciously sabotage every career opportunity you get.
And you'll call it a choice. You'll say, I chose a life of meaning over material wealth.
But it's just a script running. You are walking down a long hallway with only one door at the end, and you're proud of yourself for choosing to open it.
Carl Jung said it best. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate.
That is the final verdict of this section. We are predictable, conditioned, programmed machines. We aren't good or evil, we are just shaped.
Okay, I genuinely need to take a breath after that. That is unbelievably bleak. We are robots. Morality is a lie. Reality is a hallucination. Is there an escape hatch? Or should we just curl up in a ball and wait for our batteries to run out?
Section 8, the escape hatch. Maybe.
Maybe. That's the best you've got for me. Maybe.
It has to be a maybe, because you can never fully escape your biology. You will always have emotions. You will always have biases. You cannot delete the operating system while the computer is running. But you can become aware of the programming. You can learn to see the code.
This is Plato's allegory of the cave.
It's the perfect metaphor. We are all prisoners chained in a dark cave, and we've been forced to watch shadows flicker on the wall our entire lives.
And the shadows are our beliefs, our ideologies, our concepts of right and wrong.
And most people spend their whole lives fighting over the shadows. They kill each other, go to war, destroy families, arguing over which shadow is the true shadow.
The escape isn't winning the argument about the shadows. The escape is turning your head and seeing the fire behind you, seeing the puppets that are casting the shadows in the first place.
The escape is the profound, earth-shattering realization, I am not right.
That's the key. Just admitting you're wrong.
It's deeper than that. It's admitting that the very concept of being right isn't what you thought it was. The wise stance isn't, I have the truth and you don't. The wise stance is, I understand why I believe this thing I believe, and I can also see the limits of that belief.
It's stepping back from the code as it's running. It's being able to say, oh, I feel a surge of anger right now. That's my patriotism subroutine kicking in because that person on TV insulted my country's flag. Interesting.
Exactly. You stop being the robot and you start being the programmer. Or at the very least, you become the user who has finally decided to read the instruction manual.
You create a tiny gap, a space between the trigger and the response.
That gap is everything. It is called metacognition. Thinking about your thinking.
But the source has a warning here. It says, this doesn't make you nicer. It doesn't necessarily make you happy.
No. Ignorance is bliss. Awareness is often painful. It can make you lonely. You can't really participate in the frantic screaming matches on social media anymore because you can see the puppet strings attached to everyone.
But it makes you dangerous.
It makes you dangerous to the people who want to control you, to the advertisers, the politicians, the algorithms. If you know how they are trying to pull your emotional levers, the levers suddenly stop working as well.
If you know why society wants you to behave a certain way, you can consciously choose to do it. Or choose not to. But for the first time, it might actually be a real choice.
It might be the first real choice you've ever made.
So we've stripped it all down. We've looked at the machinery. Let's try to wrap this whole deconstruction up. What does this all mean for the person listening to this right now?
It means that you are walking around with software in your head that you did not write. You are passionately defending beliefs you did not consciously choose. You are fighting in bitter wars over labels, liberal, conservative, vegan, Christian, that do not exist in nature.
We are biological machines desperately trying to feel safe in a universe that doesn't know or care that we exist.
And that deepest psychological truth from the source really says it all. Humans don't believe what is true. They believe what kept them safe.
That's the part that's going to haunt me. Everything I think I know, every deeply held value, is just a shield I picked up at some point to stop the world from hurting me.
Correct.
So if you've made it all the way to the end of this deep dive, well, congratulations. You're awake now. You can see the conditioning. You can see the prison walls.
But remember the final warning. Knowing the prison exists doesn't necessarily mean you've escaped it. You still have to live inside it. You still have to pay your taxes and stop at red lights and deal with your family at Thanksgiving.
But at least now, when you look at the PARs, you know what they're made of.
And that changes everything.
Thanks for joining us on this deprogramming session. It wasn't easy, but hopefully it was real. We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Stay curious and question your code.